Today I'm going to demo some new and exciting features that we're putting into the Leostream platform specifically to help MSPs and anyone who needs to manage multi-tenant environments. Now, Leostream has always been a multi-tenant platform in the way that you can define multiple domains and authentication servers within the connection broker, and you can manage them independently and allow different tenants to log into your Leostream environment. What has been missing up until now is a couple things. One, what we heard is that people needed to obviously hide the domains for different customers from each other. So customer A shouldn't be seeing the domain information for other customers. They should just see their domain. So that's one of the things I'll show you. We now have ways that you can create specific domains for your different tenants. Then the other thing you want is basically tenant-based administration. You want to be able to create accounts for your tenants so they can see their users and their desktops, but not actually modify or view the rest of your Leostream environment. So I'll show you how you can do that as well. So here what you see, this is the main portal for your Leostream environment. This is where you as an MSP would be managing all of your different tenants and your different pools and policies. So I'm going to log in as the main Leostream administrator. For the most part, the setup is entirely the same, whether you're managing a multi-tenant environment or not. The keys here are in the setup section. So there's this new option here to create tenants. So essentially, for each tenant that you want to support, you're going to define a login portal for them, a URL that is specific to them. Now, in my case, I have puppies and kittens, but maybe you'd have customer 1, customer 2, what have you. Creating a tenant is very straightforward. This is just telling the broker what is that URL, what is that fully qualified domain name that you're going to use for each of your tenants. So if I want birds, put birds here, and then birds.leostream net there. And that just creates a third tenant inside of Leostream. And you would actually see, you can see your tenants up in here. This is how you as the main administrator can kind of see what different tenants would see. And I'll show you that here in a bit. So that's really the key, is create the specific URL and fully qualified domain name for each tenant. And then what you do is you're going to have Leostream indicate which users and desktops belong on those different tenants. One way you can do that is through authentication servers. So in my case, I'm saying I have unique Active Directory servers for my different tenants. So I came in here and I defined the AD server for my puppies, and then I have another AD server specific to my kittens. Now you could, if you have one large AD server and you're managing all your tenants through OUs or something like that, you can do that in Leostream as well, because what we give you here is a way to indicate the search string for the user accounts. And so you might be able to set up different authentication servers for your different tenants just by putting us in a different part of the authentication server tree, the part that belongs to that particular tenant. So once you have your authentication servers, again, everything else is exactly the same. You can come in here and define pools. In my case, I've created pools specific to my tenants. And these pools are actually on the same hosting platform. So here's a way that you can segregate your hosting platform based on your tenants just by creating pools for those different users. So now I'm going to show you here, actually before I do that, let me show you here. Inside of Leostream, I've created a role for my tenant-based administrators. Now, roles in Leostream, they essentially do two things. One, they give end users certain permissions, things like can they reboot their machines, but that's not really what we're concerned about here. And when we're talking about multi-tenancy, what we want to look at is providing administrator-based access to this interface. So here I've created a role that gives access only to the administrator web interface. And you notice I've created permissions set to no access for everything except down here. I've set the desktops to full. Now, the interesting thing is, based on the tenant that the user belongs to, the broker is going to filter what they see in this UI. So while my role says full permission to all desktops, when a user logs in with that role, the broker is also going to check which tenant they're in and give them full permission to all the desktops in their tenant only. And you can see that by looking at this user here. So here, what I had done in the broker, I created 2 tenant-based administrators. So I have one for my kittens and one for my puppies. And if I see they're just local users in the broker, created a login name and a password and assigned them that tenant role. So now when that administrator logs in through their URL, what they see only is what belongs to them. So here you see I'm in the puppy tenant. And here in my desktops, so far, there's only a single desktop assigned with that tenant. And there happen to be 2 users, the admin and one end user that's logged in. Now you can pre-populate users here, but essentially what happens is the first time a user logs in through the URL associated with that tenant, the broker automatically sorts that user into the appropriate tenant. And as soon as that user requests a connection to a desktop, that desktop gets filtered into that tenant as well. So essentially what this allows you to do is have one big pool of machines on your shared hosting platform, say, and then as users start logging in from different tenants, those machines will get sorted into the appropriate tenants. Here you see I've got my kittens, and I see different desktops and users associated with that tenant. So that's the beginning of the feature for multi-tenancy. Again, it's all about separating your users and your desktops into different tenants and allowing users to log in specifically to their tenant to administer those users and desktops and to get access only to the information in those tenants. If you need more information or you want to give it a try, you can always drop us a line.